Hello and welcome to the ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣 Witchcraft podcast. Today we're going to talk about a random stuff. We have prepared, obviously, way back when, a big list of potential podcast topics. And on that list, near the beginning, was one called Treehouse of Horrors, where we were going to talk about archetypes and particularly like The Simpsons. That was back when we was doing more pop culture chats.
Yeah, I think so.
The interesting thing about The Simpsons, obviously, is that it's super stereotypical and all of the characters themselves are archetypes. But then with the Treehouse of Horrors, where they used to do the Halloween specials, they would have sort of famous stories and they would slot the characters from The Simpsons into those stories to kind of play a role. So some kind of evil vampire, old Dracula type would be played by like a Mr. Burns or someone like that, you know. It is quite interesting how they interchange, and you can interchange a made-up character that is based on an archetype with other stories, and yet you can still get the best of both worlds. You get the original story, and then you also get the thing that they're trying to copy and parody. It's always really interesting when that goes well. Do you have any stereotypical people in your life that fulfill horror character roles, Chris? If you were to typecast the next Dracula or, I don't know, The Shining or something, would you have people that you have in mind already to play them?
Oh, no one jumps. I kind of get rid of all my horrid characters quite quickly early on.
Yeah, but surely you must like some horrid characters because you yourself are horrid and birds of a feather flock together, isn't that what they say? I
Rude.
mean, you're a witch. You can't get more horror film than that.
Yeah, but I spend time with other witches. But other than that, not really. People I can't stand, I either kill or write new stories for.
Okay. So who's the most stereotypical um witch that you know then?
Well, that's probably Lady Poison.
Really?
Is the most
What sort of stereotype are we
stereotypical.
going for? Are we going for crushed velvet wearing, pentagram wielding, or are we going for something other type of archetype?
No, we're talking kind of like, Brothers Grimm level.
Oh, Brothers Grimm.
Proper witchy, European kind of horror story kind of witches.
Is she Brothers Grimm or is she more American Horror Story? Could you imagine her being in that series?
Oh, the Coven.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now she's got a hat that's fashionable enough to be in that series. I'm sure that would work just fine. I just think kind of like has a cottage, creepy place, little
Does creepy
animal.
shit. Skulking around in the night in the graveyard.
Fey trap in the garden.
It is the
No,
stuff of nightmares.
exactly. Likes to play with potions.
Yeah.
Has an actual lab. That is fairly stereotypical dreamland witchcraft.
Well, that's a very stereotypical. Is it a Hammer House of Horror? Where they did the old horror films, where it'd be super stereotypical Dr. Frankenstein as monster, that kind of thing. Who would play the monster for if Lady Poison is creating monsters in the lab? Who would play the monster?
I don't know, probably you.
Me. Oh, okay. I've got another stereotype that's come to mind, but I probably can't share it.
Oh dear. As long as it's nothing to do with Bellamy.
No, it hasn't got anything to do with Bellamy. It has to do with old-fashioned back in the day, where they used like puppets and stuff for children's television. Like what was it? Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet and all that. Are you old enough to remember that?
Yeah.
Just about.
Well, I also prefer, the kind of modern adult version, which was obviously Team America. Fuck yeah.
Oh, America. Fuck yeah. We should, oh my gosh, we should get that for Feisty Wishes. I don't know why I haven't done that. I'll write that down now.
What, you want a clip of Team America?
We need a video meme for Feisty Wishes. It had all sorts in it, didn't it? Didn't it have Kim Jong-un in it as well?
Yeah.
Did they only make one of those films, or was there more than one?
I think there was only one. I think they only did one.
Right, archetypes. They exist, and is not just some bullshit that modern psychologists and such have made up. Because there's a lot of these terms and stuff that psychologists like to make up because they do love to categorize people, and there's an ever increasing list of things that you can be categorized with. But some of the better things to come out of psychology is this idea of archetypes, I think. That's probably less pseudoscience, isn't it, than whatever the current strange form of attention deficit disorder variation they've come out with. Are you mulling things over, or have we lost you?
No, I'm here. I just, I don't know. The kind of stereotypes I think of if we're Halloweening are obviously Frankenstein and his monster, mummies, Jeepers Creepers, Sleepy Hollow, I don't know, Headless Horseman. I don't know who I'd cast in all those roles. Genie, granting wishes.
We're supposed to be making a tarot deck with patrons in it.
Yes, this is true, but that's a lot easier to do.
Archetypal to a certain extent.
That's a lot easier to do. They're broader contracts.
They are, but also, how quickly did we actually come up with the names as soon as you've got each card? It was actually really easy, I think.
I think we smashed that out in like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's esoteric. That's easy enough to kind of naturally do.
So if you were some sort of playing a role in some sort of horror film, so maybe they did one of these ones where it's like a mashup, like it's quite popular now, isn't it? A mashup of lots of different fairy tales and horrors and all sorts of stuff like that. If you were to play one of the baddies, one of the monsters, what monster would you be? And would it be Ursula?
No, that involves getting wet all the time.
But you'd prefer water to air, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose, but those aren't the only two elements there.
No, but you can't be. It's got to be stereotypical. Would you go more for the look if it was like dressing up with Halloween? Would you go more for who has the currently or who's got the most similar personality to you? Or is it powers? Or is it storyline? Is it speaking parts? Who's got the best one-liners? What would you go for?
Well, the natural one for me is obviously has to be Dracula, but that's because I've always had a bit of a thing for vampires. I've lived forever. That's a running joke with students at work. I already have the pale complexion. Very rarely see any sunlight. And I never sleep. So yeah, I think naturally, I'd have to be some kind of Dracula or opportunist.
Interesting. So, who would fit your stereotype for your archetype from one of the popular ones these days, the Harry Potter universe? If you were to be cast, or even assume the life of, what one would it be? What would you be?
I'd probably be Snape.
Oh, that's kind of sweet, really, I suppose, if
You
you
know,
know his background and such.
only find out that he's the nice one in the end,
What, basically after he dies?
after he's already dead.
Would you really pick Snape?
I think so, because
Why?
I don't like a lot of the others.
You're
So
not
my
more of a
favorite,
McGonagall person?
no, my favorite character was Lupin.
Really?
Yeah, like he was my favorite teacher
He
from
was
the.
the werewolf one, wasn't he?
Yeah, but that was my favorite book and
Uh,
my favorite because like his lessons were the most interesting.
he wasn't a bad teacher, but considering he was supposed to be quite a good wizard, he was not that great at magic, from what I remember. As the books went on, he was just kind of a bit shit.
Yeah, but you
But
try
then
and
those that
be.
can't teach, I suppose, don't they?
Well, no, but also you've got to think of it's a cursed individual, isn't it?
Mm,
So he's spending most of his time just fighting his own urges. It would be much easier for him to be a baddie and go around killing things. So I imagine it's much harder for him to reach his full potential.
okay. So we have archetypes. To a certain extent, some would even say Thoth, the overall Thoth witchcraft empire, is in fact a cult created by three cult leaders, one of which is somewhat etheric. But how do you think people view you? So all of the patrons and the people that watch us, that don't and listen to us, that don't really know us and they've never met us and such, but just watched content and listen to the content and such. How do you think they view you, kind of archetypally? Do you think they see you as a hero, a villain? What have you ever given it any thought?
I don't think I would fit into either villain or hero. I think there is a somewhat a somewhat amount of fear, but I think that comes from fear fear that they might disappoint.
So you're thinking that when they look at you, they see fear because they're scared of you because they're worried about disappointing you.
Yeah, as a teacher.
Okay. Well, there is a lot of fear, isn't there? And there's lots of people that won't reach out and talk to us because of fear. I don't think we're that bad. There's been moments when I thought, when I've spoken to someone and they've spoken to other people, and the other people have got very strange ideas of you or me, or both of us, really. And I do wonder where some of these come from. I wonder how much of it is projection in terms of the person themselves projecting onto us what they view the magical world like, or what they view other practitioners or anything like that. Because I found that a lot of it is people with strong views about us, I think, tend to project a lot. There was a certain run-in in a group am part of, and someone basically decided to leave because I think they were projecting onto others, thinking that because they probably are sad and full of self-loathing, that they think that everyone else seems to hate them, and I don't think that that's necessarily true, but I have seen that repeat over and over and over again with regards to people that may have had bad experience with certain people, but because they've had bad experiences, that kind of becomes part of their personality. The sort of people that maybe that person was laughed at once for something, and all the people in the room laughed at them, and now whenever they go into a room and there's laughter, they assume that everyone's laughing at them. That's the impression I get, and it's unfounded. But have you ever had any experiences like that, in terms of meeting people like that, or having clients like that, or patrons or mentees like that? Because it's quite crippling, I think, particularly on a path like this.
Yeah, I've had clients that just don't have enough faith in what they can do, and regardless of how many times you tell them they're on the right track, they think you're being nice or
Well, they should know better.
encouraging, and you're just kind of like, no, if I thought you weren't doing it, I'd be giving you a lecture, not trying to fluff you up a little bit in order to allow you to manage to get through. It'd be, think about it again. Let's try that again. I think it's very rare that we ever have to revisit previous homework, if that makes sense. Like, it's very rare that we've had to ask them to do a task they've already done again. On the people that we have had to do that with, we've had to repeat and repeat and repeat. But I don't think actually there are many that have ever had to do that. I do wonder sometimes whether or not certain individuals.
Oh, is someone cutting the hedge down?
Someone's drilling through my wall, apparently.
Oh dear.
So
Putting a mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all? Putting that up.
Suddenly decided today was a good day, apparently.
Can you wave your hand and make them fall off the steps and drill through their head or something? Is that the sort of thing you do, or is that unethical?
Afterthought.
Oh, not good.
Yes, that's really annoying.
Do you want to stop, or do you want to carry on?
It stopped, but I don't know if that's permanent. So yeah, what is really, which I kind of hope doesn't happen, but I'm never sure, is that whenever people avoid in order to actually, because they haven't got somewhere, and that I sometimes wonder if that reflects badly on us, if someone's avoiding talking about something. I think sometimes that, there are lapses where they need the confidence to have that conversation. I know myself, there are conversations that you just avoid having on the basis that you are not ready to hear the answer. So with, when you're kind of like, I know I didn't do that very well, but I'm not ready to be told that was shit. Like, those kind of like, actually, I need to have kind of thought the process through myself before I'm then ready to actually ask a question. So I wonder if sometimes that's what we get from some of our students, where they kind of go, I'm not ready to hear Chris and Liam dress me down on that yet. So maybe I won't mention that bit of the homework, and we'll go and talk about another project that I'm working on. So I wonder if any of them have ever lied about having actually finished doing something and delayed actually talking about it until the next time, in order
Well,
to kind of.
there are some that actually say, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. I will be finished next time. So they've made a start on it, but they're not ready to present it.
Yeah.
But that's personal pride, isn't it? That isn't a fear, I don't think. I think there are people with a lot of pride that put a lot of pride into their work and they like things just so. And then there's people that just put a time limit on it and say, well, I've managed to do this, this, and this. This will have to do, sort of thing. Have you ever handed someone their ass in terms of a mentee? Have you ever got feisty and feisty with any of them for not doing something right or not doing something at all?
Rare, but when I have, yes, I've gone to town.
Ooh, can you tell us about one? You don't have to give any names. Come on, us witches love to gossip.
Yeah, I know, but it's always you that makes me gossip. It makes me appear to be the bad one.
You are the bad one. You're the fastest witch of them all.
So I've had a few cases with different clients over the years where they're just not getting something, and you're kind of aware. You've explained it anyway, every way you possibly can. But actually, the problem is they're just not listening.
Right.
So I've had a few clients where that's, I've had more clients than I have mentees do that. Where you just kind of like, you're missing the point. The point is it's not going to work that way. So, bag your pride up.
Do you think that there's an old expression, right? It goes something like, there's no such thing as bad students, only bad teachers. Because I've always thought that's bullshit.
No, I think there are receptive students and students that aren't receptive. And I don't think that's necessarily the person's fault. I think as a teacher, there is a case of you need to bend in order for a student to engage.
Yeah.
And that's your job. So if a student's not engaging, that I feel is your fault.
Really?
Because there's an opportunity
for them
to engage.
If the student's not willing to put any effort in, then it's their fault. It's the student's fault. But if the student is willing to put effort in and is trying, it's the teacher needs to find a way that the student can learn. Because you can't really educate someone that's not willing to be educated a lot of the time. But someone that's really trying, and trying as in putting effort in, not trying as in a pain in the ass, someone that's really trying to put effort in, you have to develop a way and try to understand and work out how they learn. Have you got any magical stories for us where you've actually had to do that, where you've had to completely change the way in which you imagined teaching a subject in order just to teach one specific student, whether it be like in a workshop setting or whether it be one-to-one?
One-to-one workshop happens less likely, but I think that's because you don't engage with them as a group necessarily in the same way. So I think those tend to happen in a way that allows you to build, at least with groups you're hoping that all of them will take something away, but you'll get more engagement from some than others, just because of the nature of a mixed workshop. I think when it comes one-to-one, there have been moments where I've had to go you're not going to get this my normal way. I'm going to have to change the way in which I explain something, or I've had to break down something into multiple steps that normally I teach with one. But that's just the nature of individualized curriculum, kind of,
Yeah. How do you personally learn then? If you had to learn a subject, how is it that Christopher learns the fastest which of them all? And obviously downloading information isn't allowed. It needs to be in a mundane sense. Do you have a nice color-coded notebook or something? How is it that you tend to learn best? Or if you were to teach yourself something?
For me, it always starts with research. I kind of have to find out what I know before I change. So I kind of need to have assessed what do I know and what don't I know. And then I need to learn more about things I don't know. So at that point, I kind of need that kind of framework of things. I think we were talking about it the other day. For me, it's about as many perspectives as possible. Then kind of brings that down into kind of going, okay, gathered the information. I know these things. I need these skills to be improved in order to do it. But I do enjoy looking at lots of other different ways of thinking. So the more opportunities I can find, the better. Did that make sense?
It kind of does, but are you a note taker, or are you like the Nikola Tesla type that just keeps all the knowledge and stuff in their heads? Because I know you're a multiple tab type person. Whenever I've seen your like computers, it's got like a million tabs open in several different browser windows.
I like to collate.
Yeah.
But I'm not I'll finish reading this thing, then I'll read this thing. Like, to me, my brain works more like one of those spider diagrams where you just kind of like, I like to see all of the working. So, like I said, I'll gather all of those sections, and if that fires off an extra thought, if I know I can't go down that corridor at that time, I'll write down the corridor name and then kind of come back to it later. I think that's possibly why I kind of empathize with ADHD a lot more than other kind of learning issues, because my brain does do that. It kind of fires off in these dead ends and other alleyways that I'm not supposed to be going down, but just kind of like, oh, someone went down there, let's see where they're going. Maybe they know something different. So I kind of have to rein myself in a lot in order to make sure that actually I still stay on task. So for me, it kind of involves lots of lists, or like you say, lots of spare tabs that aren't about the current thing, but are something that I want to go back to because I've stumbled across a thought while going down something. So, I'm one of those people that my lists have lists.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the regular edition of the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. Sorry about the noise with the drilling and that sort of thing. We'll go into extra time and we'll post it on the Thoth Witchcraft Patreon. And in extra time, I think we need to go into a little bit about what currently you are learning, or what we're both learning, and various other projects maybe that we've got on, because it's interesting to open up about our own works, isn't it? But there we go. That is it.